Greetings, Sanbonani, Dumelange, Absheni. Hello out there once again. It's your boys back again with another episode of The Real Talk with AKAY. And this one is quite special, man, because we are wrapping off the year. This is our last episode for season 1, man. It's been a long journey. Mr. Muela, or am I lying, sir?
It's one of those moments where I'd say, have you ever had that moment where you play an R&B songs and you're starting to reminisce everything of the past and all that? So it was quite a fun-filled season, even though I actually came in mid-season, but it was actually a fun-filled season, quite extremely instructive and educational. Yeah. But all in all, a great time.
Yeah, but I think we'll actually it will be like our last topic for the day when we take a look at some of the season highlights. Yeah. But focusing on the Black Twitter cancel culture, and we'll also be having a gender-based violence discussion in terms of like the stereotypes surrounding men who actually report abuse. And then we're also going to be looking at this thing of false rape accusations. And then the other thing that we'll be covering is this thing of influencers and celebrities from the entertainment industry, how they tend to endorse movements that only benefit them while cancelling other people in most cases, and how they are not using their platforms to address real issues. But apart from that, let's get on. So we'll actually be starting with this thing up like Twitter, you see. Okay. Like, as we have seen, like, over the last few weeks with what happened with McG via the Juk interview, the one where, like, Juk pulled through for the interview, and then a lot of things went up there from the rape people in. So, like, my man, I want us to clarify something for the real talkers out there. But before we do that, I just want to find out from you on your side, if you actually think like this cancel culture, is it fair, or is there certain individuals that it benefits? Because from what I'm stating, I feel like this cancel culture trend only applies to certain individuals. It's not two-sided but one-sided.
Not just individuals, but also certain discussions.
Yeah.
It's beneficial in order to open up a large audience and actually sharing their side of the story and their opinions, how they view things, how they understand things. But at the same time, it becomes a problem when it's used for personal battles amongst people. And some people tend to become personally, should I say, they tend to personally over-engage because they might relate or might have been in some situations like that and all that. But the question becomes, like you said, is it good or bad? But I guess we can also say, is it healthy for the person, someone who's actually watching, someone who's actually listening, someone who's actually reading, and someone who's actually analyzing the content in general and saying, this is good, this is bad, this was completely unprovoked, this thing was said completely unprovoked. Yeah. Because a lot of things are happening, Joe, and I guess it becomes one-sided. When you started talking about cancel culture and all that, a lot of things tend to pop up in my head all at once, and you start to wonder, and like, is this thing good, is this thing bad, is this thing healthy, is this thing beneficial?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, for me, I can say, like, for the South African cancel culture, it's trash. I won't lie, from where I'm standing.
Okay, why?
For instance, let's look at how it works.
Okay.
It says cancel culture only cancels men in most cases. Like, for real, bro. How can I check us in we have women who have falsely accused men of rape. For instance, let's take a look at this issue, yes, Java and rapism.
Okay.
You saw what happened. Java was charged with rape. He got cancelled before he was even proven guilty of the crime. He got cancelled, and then the case was dismissed.
Yeah.
But nothing happened to the person who laid the charges.
Which was rapism, of course.
But if it was a guy now, from a guy's perspective, what do you think will be happening?
That's the thing. I think. But let's be honest, okay. This thing, what we are talking about is basically gravitating towards. Do we understand a man's psychological health and how important it is to the communities at large and the people in general? For an example, the Lady Zamar and Sjava story.
Yeah.
If Sjava, I'm just being hypothetical here, if Sjava actually went on to claim rape against Lady Zamar, and he said, Lady Zamar raped me, Sjava would be ridiculed for being...
Oh, even for suing Lady Zamar.
Yeah, for being less of a man than who he really is. And you start wondering, do people understand the gravity of men who are abused or stuff like that? It's like if we take it international, the Bow Wow, who was Bow Wow dating again? Who his girlfriend actually beat him up.
Yeah, so the story, I just don't know.
Yeah. And remember, at some point he retaliated, right?
Yeah.
And he was incarcerated. And then he stopped retaliating. And then they let him go. Yeah. And then they beat him up and all these things. He went on social media and people ridiculed him for being less of a man than he really is. And you start to wonder, at what point do people start to consider these things? But in terms of, not international, but when you zoom it into South Africa, I won't lie. South Africa, regardless of how serious the situation is, you will always look for humor behind something.
It's one of the reasons I also feel like we are not using the Black Teacher platform for its initial purpose.
Okay.
The reason it was actually established. And that was to address issues that black members in our communities are facing at a larger scale. It's more like this thing of cancel culture. Like, the cancel culture, actually, when I was busy doing research, it actually started being taken serious. I think it was around 2014, and it was because of the Me Too movement. Yeah. They were like a group of guys, if I'm not mistaken. These guys, it was more like net, a group of gamers. So they wanted this game to be like, there was a problem with the game, but they wanted it to to be cancelled, to be terminated. Yeah. So that's when they started pushing this whole thing. The Black Twitter community gave birth to it. And then when you come back to this side, man, hey, you get that by the Black Twitter side. It's only humor, nothing serious. The only time it's active is when they want to cancel people for their agendas. My man, the list is long. It's one of the reasons I said this thing actually, the cancel culture only applies to men in most cases.
Exactly, but let's dwell a bit into the McG interview.
Yeah.
What was said prior to that, I don't know, give me your opinion. What he might have said during that interview, and I'm referring to Juju, not McG. Yeah. We need to understand that McG only gave Juju the platform.
He was doing his job.
Yeah. He gave him the platform to actually say something, and people started attacking the poor dude for giving someone the platform to actually stand his ground and say, this is my side of the story.
And when we look at, in most cases, the purpose of podcasts, why do podcasts exist and how they thrive? Yeah. Podcasts thrive through controversy and people talking about it. It's one of the reasons it's been hard for them to cancel McG at the moment. Yeah. Because the more they talk about him, it's the more these people attract sponsors.
Exactly.
It's all about controversy. So they just gave Juju the platform.
But now, okay. Now going back to the main person or the guest that was actually interviewed at that point in time, which is Juju, yes. What he said. Do you think what he said and what he shared was actually provoked in him reacting in such a manner, but for Amanda Dupont to actually respond in such a personal manner as well? I just want to hear your thoughts on that. Was he provoked to say something, to say whatever it is that he said?
No, it was not provoked.
So now here's the point that I'm trying to make, and it goes back to what we said in terms of, is it healthy or is it unhealthy? We're talking about two people who have a very should I say, strong or incredible influence in the public at large. And we're talking about people who oftentimes would say, if they said, I'm going to wear this kind of shoe today because I actually like it, it's good for me, and it suits me. How many people are actually going to start wearing that shoe, and how many of those shoes would actually be sold on a very larger scale? You understand what I mean? They're not just celebrities, they're also influencers of their own right.
Yeah.
So
they are trendsetters.
Yes. Now the question becomes, are followers impartial or loyal to the people who they follow? And the people who are actually putting their should I say, indaba zabo on public space, is it for their own benefit, or is it to create awareness with regards to a certain problem that we're facing as a society?
Exactly. If you recall when we were still preparing for this topic, when I actually sent you a text on WhatsApp, I was like, yeah, we need to do a show on this whole thing, our celebs and everything. One of the points that I made was like, our celebrities at the moment, most of them, they have like these platforms where like they have a large audience, but they are not using them for initiating change or having engaging conversations with their followers. In most cases, Motoko Canada, and then they start posting maybe about like the meal they had, Kosantini, such vibes. But when we look at the problems that we are having, and then what they'll do, they'll wait for maybe, for instance, let's just say maybe I'll do something wrong or by mistake, and then they'll wait for that chance to start addressing such issues. It's more like this thing of gender-based violence, literally speaking. You know, like, we would have addressed these issues a long time ago and we would have found solutions to them. But because of what, this thing of our celebs only engaging on such matters only when it's their friends or certain members that they know.
It's extremely close to
For instance, let's look at this Amanda Point saga when she actually disclosed that Jub raped her. You know, like how many celebs did you see coming out to be like, I support you, I stand with Amanda and everything? But we have, on a daily basis, we have cases of gender-based violences. The rate is going up, but they are not there. My man, we can log on to Twitter right now. Most of them, they are talking about their houses. These giveaways are necessary.
But here's the thing, and the irony is that, remember during the KZN Gauteng riots, when people decided, you know what, we're going to take the initiative of cleaning up the streets. Celebrities were actually engaged in those initiatives. They did for as a
Clout.
What do you call it again? Publicity stunt. Yeah. They use it as a publicity stunt to be like, I want the entire public to see that I'm actually doing this. But you'll never hear this thing of, we saw, for example, I don't know, any random celebrity. Let's take McG. Just making us an example. We haven't seen McG, like we saw McG picking up papers and everything, trying to clean up the streets without the camera crew.
Exactly.
And the people who actually take photos of McG and all these things are the public at large, to indicate that I'm bigger than what I want to be, which is I'm bigger than the cameras and the publicity and all that. I'm also human. So it becomes a question of how much is. All I can say is this, and this is the problem that I think I'm going to have for a very long time and for the rest of my life. And it goes back to, I remember talking with a colleague while we were still talking about cancel culture as well as GBV. I remember talking to a colleague, and she was like, the problem that we face with GBV is with regards to men. Men are the only people who are causing GBV. I'm like, yes, but who in their right minds has ever given men the platform to say, this month we are going to focus on men's mental health? You'll never see that. You'll never see that on the news. You'll never see that on social media. You'll only see people expressing mental health within men primarily because they faced mental health problems at some point in time. when you start talking about this thing of men actually going to police stations to go and report that they're being abused or they're being raped by their women and all these things, it makes you wonder. Like, for an example, I remember talking to a friend of mine, maybe after mentioning him, you might consider coming to the show as a guest. We started talking about this thing of what is rape. Let's start talking about what is rape before we can dwell into cancel culture. I think when you start talking about all these things, we're actually touching base on GBV as well as cancel culture at large. What is the definition of rape? And don't specify a gender.
It's someone forcefully, someone who's got it,
forcing themselves on you in a sexual manner.
Yeah.
Does the definition say when a man forces himself to a woman? So if you know, I'm sure
can also be raped.
Yeah, so I'm sure real talkers are already getting where I'm going right now. Ladies, I'm going to ask this question to the ladies and the gents. In fact, everyone, gay, straight, everything. I'm just going to be straightforward with you guys. Everyone, which is, if someone came to you and they said, let's say you work, you knock off work, and you're like, I'm tired, you live with your partner, and you're like, I'm so tired right now. What I need right now is just a bath and food, and I'm in the sack.
About say juice.
Yes. And then they'd be like, hey Marna, what if? Specifically to guys, I'm going to direct specifically this thing to guys. If you guys say no, that means you're not consenting to what your partner is actually requesting, right? And if you're saying no, that means if they forcefully try to do this thing, that is classified as what? That's classified as rape. Because you're saying no to something you look right?
It's more like this thing at the moment, just to add on what you're saying. There's this thing, as guys, right now, if like maybe I'm sleeping with a chick and then
yes,
it's considered rape.
Yes.
But then I can have a chick on my bed. I'm supposed to act like it's normal. And then I can say that like you said.
Exactly. And here's the thing. When you're replying, you start saying Marai. I'm being raped. And you talk too much.
You know, it all goes back to this thing I saw on Twitter like the other day, how work I wanna like this guy, this chick posted a pic and on Twitter was like, hey, like I'm bored by myself in my apartment, like such vibes, you know. And then this guy responded with a picture like, oh, you stay like right in front of me, you are my neighbor. And then that chick was like, do you wanna go for a swim?
Okay.
The guy was like, I don't know how to swim. And then like you should have seen how men and women were there, my man. Like, wow, listen to him. Oh, listen to him.
And you start to wonder, how far does this thing go, guys? No, I won't lie. If men who can claim rape are not taken seriously, if men who claim abuse are not taken seriously, if men who would say no, and here's the funny part about women. Women would say no, I would understand, but they're actually lying.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you guys
when they say okay.
Yeah, listen to this, man. Listen to this analogy. If you're a guy, you knock off work, and they're like, so I'm craving hanky panky right now, and you're like, actually, girl, I'm tired. I'm not in the mood. What's the first thing that a woman is going to suspect?
You're cheating.
You're cheating. You understand?
And sometimes you're just not in the mood, man.
Exactly.
Like, you're just not in the mood for it. Like,
who would tire you except for me? And you start to wonder, and it becomes this thing now. Now this guy is psychologically pressurized to perform in the bed. And you start being like, I'm this thing. I'm really not in the mood to do this, but I have to do it just to.
And then we wonder why sometimes, like most of these relationships, they are full of destructive forces between. Because at the end of the day, sex is more like a soul-time connection. When you have that thing, you're supposed to be at a peaceful mind. Your mind is supposed to be at a peaceful state. So, like once I come there, like was spanning. And then you also pressurizing me. I'm already transferring that bad energy I have.
Exactly. And it becomes a problem. That's why I'm saying, this thing, we need to look very carefully at how we classify men's mental health. We need to zoom in very carefully on how we classify abuse and all these things. But all I can say with regards to Black Twitter, it can be used as a force of good. For an example, when remember the movie Black Panther when it came out?
Yeah.
Black people felt empowered.
Yeah.
We're like Wakanda forever.
Until it dropped and they went to cinemas.
Exactly. We were like for Wakanda forever because we felt people felt extremely empowered. Black people felt extremely empowered.
With South Africans, when it comes to like the Black Teacher Cancel culture for South Africans, it's dumb as fuck. You know, like I actually stand with McG when he said like majority of people who are on Black Twitter, they are idiots. Like he said, it's straight. I won't lie. In most cases, when they start this cancel trends, they don't even have the full facts.
Yeah.
Someone is just an influencer with a large number of followers,
and they jump into conclusion.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Because you start being. That's why I asked this question of whenever we start analyzing the Amanda DuPont and Joop Joop's situation and stories like that, the question becomes: was Joop Joop actually provoked to say what he said
on the episode?
And it makes you wonder.
Did you watch the full episode?
I didn't watch the full episode. I did hear some key points. Then I got bored.
Yeah.
But I was quite intrigued at Amanda's response to the situation. Like, look at this for an example. Remember, she's married, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's the funny part about Black Twitter that actually pisses me off. I won't lie, it actually pisses me off. And I'm also going to draw in a celebrity who actually passed on. I'm not gonna.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not gonna drag too much into it. But here's the thing. People are talking about Joop Joop and Amanda DuPont.
Yeah.
But no one is talking about the psychological state of Amanda DuPont's husband. Or if Joop Joop really has a lifetime partner, the psychological state of Joop Joop's partner at that point in time. How are these people supposed to cope with people who have such a large reach in the public arena? And you start wondering, what kind of mental state is he in? If you're Amanda DuPont's husband right now, and things of rape were talked left, right, and center, and your wife had to defend herself in a public space, and also against somebody who's trying to victimize her, if she is being victimized, because there's two sides to the story. But the issue is that both of them will not be in the same setting to talk about these things. It would be so awesome if we had that much of an influence. We'd actually call Joop Joop and Amanda DuPont here and actually hear their side of the story.
Yeah.
But it's going to be he said, she said, he said, she said.
What's currently happening?
But in terms of them being in the same arena, it's going to become problematic.
Yeah. Because I even feel like I want us to also take a look at the cancel culture that comes from these corporations, you know. But I will get there because we are still on this issue. Yeah, Joop Joop and Amanda.
Yes.
You know, like a lot has been said over the last few days. Like some have already condemned Joop Joop saying he did it, and then some are like, nah, we are just waiting innocent until proven guilty. So my man, I just wanna find out if you think Corey, they did do it.
It's hard to say. You know why it's hard to say, and I'm saying this based on the information that I've accumulated.
Yeah.
There are people who are asking this question of, Amanda, why didn't you come forward and talk about this thing?
You dated for 2 years.
Yeah. Why didn't you come forward and talk about this thing? Why stay quiet to a point where you even get married without actually voicing out what has happened to you? At the same time, it gave Amanda the defensive platform and saying, You said all these things and you said them unprovoked. I never provoked you to say these things. I'm married, I moved on, I'm far away from you, and now all of a sudden you're saying these things. Why are you saying these things?
But Mufe, not sometimes cop over time. Do you think if the rapey would I mention your name in an interview get about who I did something?
No.
Exactly. You know, like there's more to like what meets the eye to this story. Because you know, earlier on, someone actually made a point like earlier on, because I was like, yo, like later on I have this episode I'm doing on this black teacher cancel culture and you know, he said, and he was a guest on his essay ready for a young president, Calvin.
Yes.
It was like, you know, Nina Nikotwa something as members. These chicks, back then when they were busy blowing up on their come-ups, they used to chow drugs, most of them. They were on drugs and everything. I'm not saying anyone is involved in drugs, but they used to chow drugs. And like one thing I've noticed about drugs in most cases, once we chow drugs, anything can happen. We can have sex right now, and then we just wake up, and then you'll start having regrets, you know. Because someone actually said this, like having sex with someone and then regretting it at a later stage. It's not rape. Because honestly speaking, there are pictures of these people where they were happy visiting Juk in prison. So it becomes hard. That's why when I was asked, do you think Juk did it? I was like, I would rather wait to have all the facts. Let the law play its course.
But that's the thing. That's why I'm saying, on a hypothetical sense, was he intentionally provoked to say what he said? I think that's the biggest question that we need to ask right now, and which is the provocation that came with the fact of, okay, mara when I say it's like, for example, when you're married and you're provoking me and all these things, like, we understand. You just abruptly boom, blow up the secret like that, and you're like, man, you're not supposed to say that, or was it really necessary for you to say it? But the provocation, was it there? Was it not there? And if it was there, then what did Amonda Tuponch say? Is it something that she said secretively or what?
I don't think there was any provocation. You know, like what happened there? It was two gents having a convo. Talking. And then you start being like, I had sex with this. It was more like that for me. That's how I feel. And then like, her name pulled through too. Because if they did hook up back in the days, then my nigga was not wrong for mentioning it. It's a nigga culture. The only difference was they were cans.
Right now, the question becomes, how did he mention it? I think, do you get what I'm saying?
He just said, I smashed.
But now, all of a sudden, the word smash is not even trending. The word rape is trending.
The word rape is started trending after Amanda DuPoint pulled through with a video. It was like, Meji and Juju.
When she was crying, man.
Yeah, that's why she said, you never snatched me. We never slept together. You raped me. You know, and then that's why it came. Because when you go and watch that full episode, no one actually mentioned anything about rape there.
Exactly. There's no guy that's going to, like you said, you're going back to your point, which is, no guy would actually go and say, I raped Usman Bar. Yeah, bro, you're really setting yourself up into a pigeon cage or something like that. So it makes me wonder, I don't know, but I feel as though she felt extremely degraded. And I guess she tried to defend herself in that particular manner. Yeah. We don't know whether the discussion even caused serious ripples within her marriage or within her relationship, because of the way she was so defensive. It was like, hey, to a point where they're not even in the same setting. And it makes you wonder, okay, how far does it go? But as for the word smash, it's a general.
How is it offensive?
Okay. If you use the word shag instead of smash, would it have still made any difference? I guess it's a matter of presentation.
Because some of them were like, saying you smash the woman, it's degrading for women. But that's a term that we use to avoid the idea of being like I had sex.
Okay.
Then
Then what about the word shag? Shag is the new thing. The new thing now, shag. So is it gender neutral?
man.
Is it gender neutral? But I don't know, but...
And like, we also need to look at one thing too, and I also feel like, as citizens, in most cases, or let me just say, as society, we have become too sensitive over the last few years, like, when you look at it. You know, like, back then we used to have cartoons that were sexist, you know, and there was never these things. But now, I don't know what, it's more like we are starting to be soft or what. It's more like using such terms as, what's this, faggots.
Yeah.
Back then, it was acceptable. But now, right now I can be like, maybe call someone and be like, it's a faggot. You can get cancelled for that thing, you won't even find jobs. Like, I feel like right now at the moment, society is just sensitive over everything. Like, we can't even find humor in small things.
But I guess the question becomes, at what point is something acceptable? Because the more society evolves, the less and less things become extremely acceptable. I guess it's a matter of time right now before they say it's unacceptable for two guys to run a single podcast episode or a podcast. We're
already going there. We're already going there.
So that's why I'm saying it all depends on that. But for me, it becomes this thing of it makes it difficult for us to come forward and ask hard-hitting questions. Yeah. Like the topic that we were talking about just prior to No. Before we actually started recording today, we don't want to talk about it, but at some point we will talk about it, and I will mention that we did talk about it. Yeah. But it becomes that thing. You start fearing this thing of asking questions in order to understand the other person's side of the story. You understand?
Yeah.
And you start to become so sensitive when you're like,
because how about they're like, that's offensive or something. And sometimes you just wanna know so that you know that you won't be in a position of making such comments.
Or being biased.
Yeah.
Or being biased.
It's more like the incident, Da Baby. I'm not sure if you know this US rapper, Da Baby. Like, there was a performance, a concert, and then at that concert he said something homophobic without being aware when he said it.
Okay.
And then like he was not more educated when he made that comment. Instead of educating him, the LGBTQ community, they attacked him. He was cancelled. Shows were like, performances were cancelled. You know, like, those are some of the things. Instead of looking for solutions, because some of these things I feel like people make them without not being aware that, these things.
Yeah, and this thing. I feel as though I guess that's a topic for another time.
And because it sucks, it's affecting people's livelihood. Man.
Yeah, I think that's a topic for another time, though. But because I personally feel as though there's still so much for us to understand from the LGBTQ community, and until they reach a point where they like
accept you.
We are free to ask, to answer any question that people have with regards to who we are, how we are, and how we want to be treated as in society. So, like, for an example, right now, if someone with a disability does not want to be sympathized to, they also want to join the queue and all these things. They don't want you to be like, oh shit.
Like, they don't want you to feel sorry.
You understand?
For them.
Sympathetic, yes. So, we'll see.
I think we've done enough on this one. But I feel like, for me, like, my plea with, like, society, when it comes to this Black Twitter cancel culture thing, especially South Africans, let it be fair. That's my plea. Like, for them or there, please, at least, let it be fair. Let it apply to both sides. You know, it can't just be when men are making errors, and then that's why we are quick to play the cancel culture. Because it also applies to corporations. This thing of them terminating endorsements without having facts, it's wrong. It's wrong. For instance, let's look at McG, what happened recently with the likes of Ko Unmutual. And I feel like it was the second time happening with them. Like, when the public starts being like, hey, cancel McG. Just because a certain group on social media is like, cancel McG. Not everyone is saying cancel McG. You see? So they need to have their facts in check too. But my man, that's a topic for another day for season 2. We'll dwell much more deeper. So right now, my man, we're gonna move to the second point. But before we do that, we'll just take a quick break and then we'll be back. But on the next topic, what we'll be actually taking a look at, it's some of the stereotypes surrounding the gender-based community in general, the gender-based violence community in general. So like some of them, it's more like these things. Yeah, to put amana the point, which we are not sure at the moment whether it's false rape accusations. Men who are actually coming forward and reporting abuse, because we did touch on them briefly when we started, but now we'll jump in much more deep after this quick break. Apart from that, please don't forget to subscribe. The subscribe button is down there. Please hit it and leave a review, and also share with your friends and family, as we are still on the path of seeking practical solutions. We'll be back after this quick short break. Welcome back, guys. On the last episode of the season of the Real Talk with AKAY, as we've been seeking practical solutions for practical societal issues, and we actually have an announcement to make at the end of the episode, but then we'll get there. As you can see right now, we are actually joined by Mr. Nkosi. In case you are wondering who this guy is, this is our videographer, Buffett. Our editor. This is the Nkosi that you see on our outros when the episode ends.
He makes everything visible, bro.
Yeah, Mr. Nkosi, welcome to the convo. But before we actually jump in, as the real talkers are aware that before the short break that we took, we are about to dive into a discussion based on gender-based violence. But before we do that, just a reminder to the real talkers out there that please don't forget to go check us out on Patreon, our Patreon page. There you will find exclusive content. By joining Patreon page, you are gaining access to a much more larger community of the real talkers out there, and you'll also receive exclusive benefits such as merchandise and other things, and many more things that are still coming on season 2. So do go check it out. It's patreon.com/realtalkwithak.com. So just go hit us up and check us out. You'll find anything that you want interesting. Apart from that, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So, Buffett, let's get back to the main business of the day now. And we are about to touch on one of the most sensitive topics, and that is gender-based violence. So, like, as you are aware already, there are certain stereotypes that come with this whole topic, gender-based violence. So I actually want us to start with the one of men who come forward to report cases of abuse that they endure at the hands of our women, and how community portrays such men. What do you think of it? Do you classify such men as being weak or strong for coming forward? Because in most cases, when we look at women who come forward with such cases, they are considered to be strong.
Okay.
But when it comes to men, that's why I want to find out from you.
So as we were recording before this, before the audios and everything and technical errors,
it's always my fault.
I was saying about a lot of things they are kind of influenced on based on how we were raised. So like men were raised to be this strong figure and really to be the protector and all of these things. So when it comes to a man having to go and report a case, hey, it becomes one of those things like, hey, there's probably some error he did somewhere that like a man shouldn't do, and he did it. That's why I it was you. So it becomes more of a joke, and that person is not really taken serious, even though it's a serious thing and these things do happen. But like to our society, that's how it is. Like I think a story is better had how go like in a position about then that's when they will be like taking it more seriously and stuff. But yeah,
in fact, the question reminds me of who's this girl, the funny chef. Remember her breakout videos where she had this boyfriend that they did, and this guy was looking at this girl as she was walking past in the car, and this guy was looking at this girl,
like checking,
and she was like, "Omushamila marago." So and then she started taking out a screwdriver, even though it was funny and it was trending. But it was an illustration of men who are abused in that particular regard. Regardless of whether you're going to justify it in saying the guy was wrong and actually looking at another girl's behind and all these things. But for the mere fact that weapons are already pulled and all these things, that's an indicator of gender-based violence.
Yeah.
And when I feel so...
You know, the point you're making, it's more like this thing. When, let me just say, I'm staying with my girlfriend and inside the house, blow me like a fat and said, we're married, whatever. And then a fight breaks out. She can do anything to me, but as soon as I react,
you go to jail.
Becomes a problem. Yeah.
You go to jail.
They don't even want to see what happens, who initiated anything. For instance, let's look at a lady. Maybe a chick now. We are having an argument. She pulls out a knife and she comes running through me. And then out of defense, maybe I do something, or maybe just move out of the way and then she falls. I'm going to jail still. It all goes back to the point Chapelo made when he said, okay, it has to do with how we were raised back then. But at the moment, we actually need to consider what the society we are living in, how times have changed. Right now at the moment, so we don't throw and my brother, you're gonna hate me for this. But you are aware that we actually have such feminist movement advocating for women and equality. But in most cases for men that's not the case. It's one of the reasons men are even afraid.
There's no masculine movement. There's no masculine movement.
And I think we once made this point on an episode that we did on masculinity versus feminism.
Yeah.
Like, we have all these movements, but when it comes to the masculine side, there are no platforms for us to sit down as men.
It's like affirmative action. They want to restore all the imbalances that have been happening in the past against women, and now they want to be at the top of the food chain, or should I say the scale, and then they still call it equality. But when traditions and everything, the men must provide at any and all times. But to reach that point, the thing about feminists, guys.
One thing about Mofeng and feminists, they are enemies.
As Changan.
And I think I get where it's coming from, because in most cases, when we look at this movement, they only advocate for women.
And they're unrealistic.
And things that benefit them.
And they're unrealistic.
Yeah.
For example, during the break, we were talking about this YouTube video that was actually trending. And some YouTube shorts where this guy was actually talking about this thing of feminist movements. And one thing that he said, he made so many valid points, it's not even funny. Listen to what he said. It's like, to those that don't know, so it starts off with the woman actually shouting in the bus or in the train, saying that if you really are a man, then you'd stand up and allow a woman to have a seat. And then this guy is saying, that right there is a typical feminist that actually feels entitled in having a position within the bus and something like that. So my question to you, feminists.
Feminism.
I'm calling you all.
Wonders.
Which is, have any of you at some point in time actually stood up and gave a man a seat?
Very rare, my man.
And another one, which is, if you are all equal according to not just the societal position but the entire natural law, that means if we have, and this is the argument that this guy was making, which is, if we have an arm wrestling contest, that means you could have the possibility of winning, right?
Yeah.
The scale is now tipped at 50-50 because you wanted equal rights. And I think the feminist movement is not helping mental health amongst men.
Yeah. Because like you say, I also feel like instead of just being there advocating, earlier on, before we had that technical glitch we had, I mentioned something.
You didn't press the record button.
I actually mentioned something, I actually said something about the feminist movements in most cases, that these movements in most cases they are only good for pointing out blunders that are being made by men instead of coming with solutions to these problems in most cases, you know. And it's one of the reasons, like we actually have a high rate of gender-based violence. That's happening. But in most cases, like this from my own point of view, like this feminist movement in most cases, I feel like they are useless. Even some of their followers, because like I know. Maybe let me just say 3 women that I know. Okay. They were feminists, hardcore feminists. My man, right now. They don't even believe in such things like a man is supposed to be a provider. And also for some of these feminists, equality and everything. But when we still go out, go restaurant, who's supposed to foot the bill?
And I guess
they should pay.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and I want to hear Taps's opinion on this, which is, I think he was trying to explain this thing of. I asked the question, which is, do we have, and I'm also asking this question to feminists as well. And people are like, hey, as today it's an anti-feminist show.
Last season, we are coming for everyone.
But anyway, which is, feminist movements, the question becomes, and I want to pose it to you. You guys want men to behave in such a manner, in such a manner. This is how a man should be. This is how a man should project themselves and all these things. And I also want to hear everyone's opinion, which is, are there platforms that provide men with the opportunity in saying, today we are going to have a men's conference where we will be talking and dwelling on men, how men should behave, how men should treat women, how men should do this, how men should do that, in order to become better men. So I don't know, guys. Share your thoughts, but no, I haven't heard of this thing. I only, ever since I was born, I only attended one.
And I only know one organization that's focused on men. What's this? Sonke Gender-Based Violence Institution. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one I know.
So I don't know, guys. Maybe you guys know some, but I don't.
So now on my side, I would say it's church. We used to have this thing called Fathers and Sons, whereby we go out and then just have a lunch, just play around and stuff like that. But they wouldn't dwell much on what really a man is supposed to do, and like everything they would dwell on would be based on like the word and how a man should be based on the word. But they wouldn't be dwelling on things like, as a son, my man, this is life, and this is supposed to happen. Your lady like this. Exactly. They don't. But the only thing they would tell you though at that time would be like, hey guys, stay away from ladies right now. Focus on school.
And they are not preparing you in a way. But what's a shiman? Stay away from ladies for now.
So prepare for school. And but now you got niggas who don't know how to get these ladies.
I can say maybe it's in the best. Maybe. Such institutions, maybe organizations are there. But in black communities, I have never even seen one.
But that's the thing. What I'm questioning of is if these institutions and organizations do exist, how far is their reach in the public arena? And it makes you wonder because of we may not acknowledge it, and even women over there might say otherwise. But I'm gonna speak the honest truth. The root of gender-based violence is based on men's mental health.
Exactly.
Let's start there.
Exactly.
And once you start to teach and deal with men's mental health, then you're dealing with gender-based violence on a simultaneous basis, on a simultaneous point. And right now, society has been bred, and I'm going to say bred. I'm not going to say society is moving to a point. Society is currently being bred because of. Why am I saying bread? I'm using the word bread because you teach a person something, and that becomes food for the mind, right? So society is being bred to a point where men start to react so negatively towards rejection that it's not even funny. That the reaction of rejection should be retaliated with violence.
Yeah.
And women are going to say, yes, but men should do this, yes, but men should do that. Women, are you guys advocating for men to have these programs in order for them to have better facilities that can deal with mental health? I'm not talking about substance abuse, I'm not talking about drug abuse or all these things. I'm just talking about a man's mental health. Because if you deal with a man's mind, you're dealing with
But
80% of society's problems.
my man, while we are on that, Ane, we also need to consider one thing too about ourselves as men, especially black men.
Okay.
Black men. Oh, black men out there. Like, as long as we are black in skin and we are men, I'm talking to you right now in the moment. Ane. But let's look at this. Ane. We can have all of these organizations. But one thing I'm sure of, or a question, let me just pose it as a question. How many men do you think are going to attend such things? Because at the moment, you can see it's hard for us to even go for therapy.
I'm not full of pride, especially black men. So,
Because as much as I feel like, as much as like we are putting the blame on the feminists and everything, we also have a role to play on this thing. Like men out there, I don't know, we feel like we are idiots for just sitting down and disclosing our problems, or what? So I don't know, what do you think can be done to encourage men in our black communities to actually start taking such initiatives seriously? Because I also feel like maybe it's one of the reasons such organizations, maybe we don't get to see them often in our black communities, because automatically when they conduct these surveys, you see.
But I guess the issue is not the attendance of such organizations. I think the issue is the presentation of these things in such organizations.
Yeah.
It's like approaching a girl. Right now, girls hate it when a guy approaches a girl like, "Hello, baby." Yes. They hate it. They hate it. And I guess it's a matter of approach, but on an honest opinion, I remember, and I'm going to share this experience, which is me attending that particular mental, and they called it Men Inda.
Yeah, in the conference.
Yes,
yeah,
where they actually called in not just doctors, but also financial institutions that had to help, that advised you as a man on how to deal with your finances and all these things and so on and so forth. And they even dwelt with men's physical health.
Yeah.
And the physical health, and they dealt with men's physical health. For example, there was this one doctor who actually talked about prostate cancer.
Yeah.
And how men actually start receiving a late diagnosis of prostate cancer and all these things, and what prostate cancer is. I didn't know jack shit about what prostate cancer is. All I know is that it's just cancer.
Yeah.
It kills. You understand? So it's not a matter of what you are bringing to the table, it's a matter of how you present it. For example, imagine if Baba Pela, where when they start dishing up for you, then you won't be attracted to that. But if it's done up the other way around, then you're attracted to it. So I don't know, maybe Taps has something different to say, but for me, men would attend. I believe men would attend. It's just a matter of number one, how you're promoting this thing, and who you're targeting specifically, and what is the end goal of that particular situation. You understand? I think for Taps, when you started mentioning church, I feel that churches have gotten easier access to these things, because now they can have, today we are having women's conference on this day to this day, then we are having men's conference on this day to this day. And if the information can actually integrate in a healthy manner, then we can start talking about a different story. I don't know, that's what I think.
But when it comes to churches, I'm gonna lie, they don't touch a lot on these things. Yeah, because most of the times it happens amongst like the very same people. Yeah. So I think they're trying to keep it low-key private and trying to paint a picture of like they are perfect, especially as couples and families out there.
Yeah.
Maybe you can look at church, but they just have this perfect picture, especially if you look at like the couples and all of that.
So, it's high time we stop pretending. So let's start talking about these issues. If you are a pastor or a preacher out there right now watching this episode, as you have heard, it's high time we actually started educating such things, having such topics at church. Like, you don't have to be going such
biblical route.
Yeah,
biblical route. It's not always.
But you can just organize maybe a day during the week for men in your congregation.
Sure.
For like, let's meet as men and just educate each other in terms of how we can deal with our issues. Sometimes just talking about issues, as a man, just as much as they are advocating equality and everything, a man naturally wants to provide in most cases. And so we need platforms to talk about such things, because like it's more like support groups for men.
Yeah.
Just when men maybe after a busy day they just pull through and sit down and talk like, hey, this is the day I had and this is what. In that way, like I was saying, guys, just as much as we men are advocating for women when it comes to women abuse and all other factors, you as women too should be advocating for us as men instead of pointing fingers. Maybe if you start doing that, I'll maybe start not considering the feminist movement useless in that manner. So, if you still want to add on to this topic, or say because
I think we should move forward, but I guess it's a question that we need to ask ourselves. Honestly, I wish to be part of an organization where it deals with men's health. I think, guys,
let's just start our own ones.
We can.
Yeah,
we can.
Or before we actually go that far, I think we should actually check, like with our older men and stuff like that, like, or like, what's the reason? Haven't they thought of this idea before? And like, what's really their part? And what's really their saying in everything? Before we actually go there for and just do some interviews.
The ideas are there, man. One thing I said about us as men, I said something like, in most cases, someone, we are not doing enough to create these platforms. Because the ideas are there. If we are talking about them, how many other people maybe out there are talking about something like this, similar to this?
There's probably a number of people that are talking about it.
So, the only problem that I feel like there's a problem with this thing, it's when it comes to us as men proposing these things. In most cases, when we talk about such topics, no man wants to talk about such things. When we raise such things, let's start in, that hood culture. So, apart from that, you had all the questions that were posed, and we still have an announcement. Maybe this mental health organization that we are talking about might just be part of the announcement that we'll make at the end of the show. But we are still on the maybe. But apart from that, we are about to venture into this thing of false rape accusations. Just false rape accusations. And I will actually relate it to the topic that we had earlier on when we started, which is the cancel culture and everything, how it goes. But before we get there, I want to know, what do you think should be done to women who actually falsely accuse men of rape? Because in most cases, men get accused. There are men who are actually serving life sentences for things that they did not commit.
I actually know a nigga who did time because of that. It was more of like he was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So they just raped this lady, and the guy happened to wear the very same T-shirt. The guy only nasapir one one. So if I'm coming back, I start you this guy. And then he did I think like 4 years.
That's fucked up.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, bro.
But on a personal sense, I think sentences should be taken on equal ground as men. If you're going to be accused of rape or falsely accused, specifically falsely accused of rape, something has to be done As I was saying, it all depends on if the constitution of the country is really that impartial. Will they take steps on women who are actually falsely accusing men of such crimes? Because I mean, rape is a serious crime.
You know, one of the reasons I'm asking this is because of the likes of Bojujubu and Java, the points I made. You falsely accuse someone of rape. It affects their livelihoods, their hustle. And then after that, there is no remedy for whatsoever once they are not found guilty for that certain crime. And like the other problem that I have, I know sometimes that our legal system can be biased in those cases. But, for instance, right now, let's just say Juk comes back not guilty.
Okay.
Are you aware that there are still gonna be certain individuals in society that are still gonna be like, he did it.
Yeah.
He did it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess, I don't know, maybe it's the loyal followers. But on a personal note, I won't lie. When women choose to be evil, they can be evil.
This also once said this, like a woman can be evil.
Yeah, when women choose to be evil, they can be evil. And falsely accusing a man of raping you is extremely evil. It's extremely evil. There are those that actually want to make a quick buck.
Also, 2019. Yeah, 2019. When I was still at Joburg, still at school there by UJ. There was this rest, like, we went to party there, me and my neighbors. Shapalala, I won't just mention like first names because of reputation for them. Varsities are still opening. But one thing that happened is we partied the whole night there, Babam Nandi, one of my neighbors left with a maid. They went to the other room. Because we understand late, we stayed behind. Yeah. So what happened was what? It's more like we partied. Come morning around 5 a.m. It's time to leave now. This nigga calls like, yo, Buffett, Copa 500. 500 for what, nigga? We were with you the whole night. We are broke. Like, you saw us spending cash and everything, we are broke. And then it's like, Buffett, this is an emergency. I slept with this chick. This chick right now at the moment is asking me for like $400. And if I'm not giving it to her, she's like, she's calling the cops and the security, the rest security. I was so disturbed. And that night we had to pull like strings because we knew once it starts, and like nigga dead hit, so his DNA was there and everything, That's some of the things like I feel like women again for these things,
But I don't know, Tubbs maybe may share his opinion.
Like it's wrong.
I'm thinking about this situation and I'm putting myself in the guy's shoes. But maybe Tubbs would share his opinion in this matter, which is how materialistic have women become in our generation? Not talking about our parents or our parents, talking about our generation. How materialistic have women become in our generation? Specifically, I'm not going to talk about the entire world or anything. I'm talking about here in SA.
Our generation.
Our generation. How materialistic have women become? How materialistic have women become? And I'm posing this to women. Women would say it's not about the money, it's not about anything,
but we know
and all that. But
we know.
We know. How materialistic are women?
At this point, I think we all agree that at this point, let's just say out of the 100%, 80%. So it's majority. Because like it's hard right now, back in the days it was so simple for Shalami. Like no Shalami is strategy. But now you can't be like, can you be my girlfriend? Equal strategy. There are these certain expectations that maybe the picnic, the date, or something is one of Gold Reef City. Like it shows, and I feel like
Installment, yeah, again,
It's taking us back to that episode that we had of legalizing prostitution.
yeah.
If you remember correctly, I did ask that question. So, women, would you take this man?
and you know, it's kind of sad because of like it has gotten to a point where we as men are starting to create these safe measures that the government still does not want to implement on our behalf. Because there was a suggestion that was made because of false rape accusations.
Why not? What suggestion?
That before we actually get down to the deed, let's jot down an agreement that both parties agree.
Consent.
Yeah, a consent. Like once, like while we are still in the room before anything happens, because we know, like, especially for South Africa, visit me means only one thing. For South Africa, we know. So while we are still on the stages, let us also involve you on a Tabea contract. Because the other day I saw a template like that, where it was like, but it was more like a joke, like, I, Sban Ban Ban, agree to have sex with Sban Ban 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 on this day, signed and sealed. Like, you know, it's a joke, but when you think of it and with what's happening, I feel like, this is needed.
One might concede, I was like, hey, gotta have something like this.
So I don't.
So much
That's a lot, though. Yo, that's a lot for just a
so
moment.
much technicalities.
For just a moment.
Brothers are getting arrested. You know, just as much as I'm saying this, you know, I stay with the feminists. You know, when they hear me saying such things, trust me, at night it's gonna be an interesting debate. Okay, guys. So it seems like we have reached the maximum time for our episode finale. But apart from that, it's been like a great year engaging with y'all as the real talkers out there. Like, you know, there's a lot that has happened. One of the reasons that we're gonna drop a bonus episode after ripping off our season officially, and then we're gonna give you a bonus episode with all our season highlights and where we feel like we could actually do better. Tina, we don't need your critics, we judge ourselves. You see, we judge ourselves. You can just share what you know, your opinions. We don't need your critics telling us to fall, AK must fall. We are here to seek practical solutions. But apart from that, I don't know if y'all Buffett have anything to say before we say goodbye for season 1.
Yeah, all I can say is that I appreciate your love and your loyalty, guys. And let's go the family.
As for me, in conclusion, firstly, with regards to the topic, with regards to the topics that we had today, let's be constructive as black people. Let's grow ourselves as black people. Let's learn to empower each other as black people. Secondly, GBV, men's mental health is key in solving a number of problems within our country. And then last but not least, I wish to thank these two. The collaboration between these two people is amazing. It is the actual reason why I actually came on board. I'm confessing certain things.
The bait was laid.
I'm saying the things that are not meant to be said. but yeah, the collaboration between these two guys has actually drawn me in, and I actually loved every moment of being, not just as a guest, but changing from a guest to a co-host. I enjoyed every moment of it. So, and I especially wish to thank all the real talkers out there. It's Real Talk with AK, but I wish to thank everyone, including these two gentlemen and the rest of the Camel crew that has been with Real Talk with AK. I wish to thank everyone for actually allowing me to be part of this. I'm not going anywhere unless...
I can't even fire a fly.
Unless he boots me, but all in all, it's been a fun experience. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, Bafetu. And I would like to, Mr. Mwela, like, it's been dope having you, like I said, like, you've been part of this thing. ever since I initiated it. From the night I told you that, you bro, I want to start a podcast.
Yeah.
You've been supportive from day one, and for that I'll forever be grateful for that. Because like I have learned a lot just having some of discussions with Jan and Mr. Nkosi too. Like, you know, like you're saying, if someone was to ask like right now how long we've been friends, or ask you how long we've been friends, you will think like, hey, these people like they've been friends for years.
Yeah.
But we just met this through your podcast and everything.
Yeah.
Like what I'm trying to say, it's more like I'm trying to highlight a point I made on the second episode.
Yeah.
It's there on Spotify, you know, of how we as young people prioritize friendships and everything over business opportunities. Instead of looking at business opportunities and then let it be the ones that determine the quality of your friendships. You see. But apart from that, let's just get to the announcements. If you are aware that our show Buffet, it's actually based on seeking practical solutions for societal issues. And on one of the episodes that we did was for alcohol and substance abuse. After that episode, so I sat down and asked myself a question like, how can I improve or address the issue of alcohol and substance abuse in my community? And then I had this initiative or an idea of starting an initiative for a rehabilitational and recreational facility. And so I'm just proud to announce that it's already in motion. Everything now is already in motion. 2022, come March or April, we are launching. So we are just making a plea to the real talkers out there who are willing to pledge their support or who just want to get involved in this whole thing, because it's going to consist of alcohol and substance abuse support groups, and we're going to have debating teams, chess clubs, and so forth, and other educational activities. In a way, we are trying to take the streets off the streets and then equipping them with the right skills. So, what's necessary for survival, as you can see what's happening out there. So me and the team and other external parties involved, we have begun implementing or putting the idea into motion. So our request is that you as real talkers, you can just assist us with making donations. We just need equipment. We don't need your money. We just need equipment. Equipment such as chess boards, soccer kits, books, stationery, and so forth. And your time, Jay, just come and volunteer, but we're going to get to the volunteering part. And the other announcement that we had is that on the 25th of December, our first blog post will be live on Patreon. However, it's going to be exclusive for the Real Talkers community only. So for you to get such content, you just need to go and join the community. And it's actually affordable, man. For just 70 rand, that's the general membership. And then for just a little bit of 1/6, that's the premium membership. You see there, you get almost everything. From guest interview invites, and just being like the guests on our episodes when we are recording. You get everything, like even our to be part of our questions and answers sessions. So you can just pull through. And we also have the last tier, which is the extreme real talkers community. That's for those ones, you know, class, you know, those ones that like separating themselves from the rest of the crowd, the elite. So that's why that's the one for you. Apart from that, it's been an honor having you for all the year, having you engage us, challenging us somewhere where konala. But apart from that, we just want to say we love you all out there. It's been an honor having you all. We are out. AKAY in Miranda in Queen.